Hello, everyone. It's me, Ari Dosset, Comrade Sheet. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Hit the like button, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel. Don't forget, donate the links below. And if you wish to contribute to the funding of my PhD, then write PhD with your donation. And you can always check my novels on Amazon. Thank you very much. In this live stream, I want to address how unstable violent people are, and why you should never rely on violence for anything in your life. All right? Let me share my screen with you. Okay, here it goes. All right. I was watching this Netflix series called Hitler and the Nazis, Evil on Trial. Now, I'm not going to show parts of the series due to copyright reasons and all of that, and YouTube community guidelines. If you have Netflix, you can watch it yourself. It is one of the reasons why I have Netflix, because from time to time they have interesting documentaries, and I also want to do an examination from time what type of movies are coming out, because movies reflect either propaganda on society or it reflects or echoes what goes on in society. I also have Apple TV, just so you know. So I'm not only on Netflix, I also have Apple TV. I also had Amazon Prime for a little while back. I think I'm going to get new subscription soon again. So yes, I'm checking what goes on in society by checking what is being put out there. Now, the timing of this documentary is a bit off. I mean, I'm sure they've been working on this documentary for a while, but the timing of its release is a bit, you know, right now that the state of Israel is losing support, suddenly this comes out. I'm not saying it's directly related, but it's something that's a bit remarkable. But anyway, when you watch this documentary, it talks about the history of how Hitler came to Germany, how Hitler came to power. It goes to all of it. It mentioned Nuremberg trials also. There's one thing this documentary does not mention explicitly because it's a bit controversial. And that is that people did not want to admit what was going on back then. I'm not talking about it. It's not this live stream is not about this documentary. I'm using it as a case study because the documentary is about how the Nazis and Adolf Hitler came to power, and you know what happened. It caused ruin all over Europe. And don't forget the genocidal practices they were doing. When I was in high school, and during history class, when we were talking about this, and we even saw a short documentary back then. This a while back when I was in high school. It was mentioned in documentary that Adolf Hitler did not hate the Jews in his earlier years. So a lot of the my fellow pupils in high school thinking, how come he turned on the Jews like that? What happened? The question stuck with me. Now, long story short, there's a whole controversy about this stuff, but let me just say it like this. Back then in the world, in the late 1920s, early 1930s, when this guy was emerging in the Deutsches Reich, because Germany as a country did not exist yet, it was the Deutsches Reich. Yet the Weimar Republic was the German Empire without the kings and the emperor, because they abandoned their thrones earlier. Now, during that time, by the way, the country was not called, the area was not called Weimar Republic, it was called the Deutsches Reich. But anyway, when this guy emerged in the Deutsches Reich, the people did not want to admit what's going on around them. This denial itself was a type of violence. And this violence opened the door for desperation. And once desperation hit the public, it was just a matter of time for any unlikely individual or any egomaniac to come in and take advantage of the situation. Now, they do mention the collaboration of the public in this documentary, but they don't explicitly mention the neglect of the public, because that's something very hard for worldlings to admit. Now, apart from this documentary, because I'm using it as a case study, let's go to the Bible. I use BibleGateway.com. I type in comments a thief, look for in the King James Version. These other results came up. I don't know, in First Thessalonians chapter 5, you read this. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have not need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. We go. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26, verse 25. In that same hour said Jesus to the multitudes. This when they were about to. Okay, let me just show it to you. It was when they were arresting Christ after Jesus Iscariot betrayed him. In the same hour said Jesus to the multitudes, are you come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I said daily with you, teaching in the temple, are ye laid no hold on me? First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord comes so common as a thief in the night. Second Peter chapter 3, verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Revelation 3, verse 3. It's something Christ said to John the Apostle. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know that what hour I will come upon thee. Okay? Revelation chapter 16, verse 15. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed he that walketh and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. So the phrase as a thief or as a thief in the night, it's a common thing in the New Testament. What does it mean? It's simple. Coming as a thief simply means you do something unexpectedly when people least expect it. And because you act in an unexpected manner, people are not prepared for what you're doing. And because they're not prepared for what you're doing, it's very unlikely they're able to resist you or oppose what you're doing. If you announce ahead of time what you're about to do, and you update people how the progress is going, it's very easy for people to shut you down or to, you know, to mess up what you're doing. Let's say you want to open a restaurant there in the neighborhood. But people in the neighborhood are envious and jealous. They don't want to see you prosper in life. So they don't mind the restaurant coming in the neighborhood. They just want you to have the restaurant. So let's say you post on Facebook you're about to open your own restaurant. They now, behind the scenes, can go to the mayor of the town or the city and complain about you. Or they can suddenly spread rumors about you or try to ruin your reputation. By destroying your reputation, they hope to hinder you getting a permit from the municipality to start your own restaurant. If that does not work, they may, once your restaurant is open, they may send people there to buy food at the restaurant and give bad reviews online. By giving all those bad reviews that they're based on nothing, they hope to hinder you. If all that doesn't work, some people will be so upset they'll come in person to attack you physically. They're risking going to prison or whatever. So when people are not in harmony or they don't consent to what you're doing, they will act out to prevent whatever it is you're doing. Unless you do it in such a way that it overtakes them and there's nothing they can do about it anymore. That is what it means to come as a thief in the night. Now, when you watch this documentary, for those who already watched it, you don't have to do it again, but feel free to do so because you may have missed some details. When you watch this documentary, and remember, I'm an anthropologist. When I watch documentaries, I filter things, I examine things. My mind is on full examination mode when I watch documentaries. I don't watch documentaries to be impressed. A lot of people watch documentaries to be, and they are impressed by what they hear. They say, "Oh, wow! Oh, I didn't know that." Me, I watch documentaries. I do have the aha moments like other people do also, but I do. There's a there's a whole examination going on in the back of my mind. When you watch a documentary, there's one thing you'll notice about this Adolf Hitler. He came as a thief in the night. Am I saying he was Christ? No. The phrase as a thief in the night simply means you do something unexpectedly in such a way that people have a hard time resisting you. When you look at this guy, he came as a thief in the night. He knew that what he wanted to do wouldn't be accepted. I mean, when this guy started in politics, his ideas were not that welcome. And he also knew that he could not do things just by force because it would backfire. So he had to obtain legitimacy through the system. And eventually, he obtained legitimacy through the system. Remember, he attempted a coup in Germany and it failed because at that time they overestimated the willingness of the Germans to join them. So he learned from that failed coup. He learned from the failed attempt to overthrow the government that he had to use the system against the system to get things done. This guy was considered a failed artist because he was an artist. He was no politician. He was an artist with a fetish for the German Empire because when he grew up, Germany was the German Empire was around with the German Emperor and the regional German kingdoms, and he and Austria was a separate empire together with Hungary, Austria-Hungary. This guy came from Austria-Hungary. This guy, this artist with a fetish for the German Empire, he did not succeed as an artist. He was a nobody. He joined the military in the Kingdom of Bavaria, which is part of the German Empire. Well, as you know, when the German Emperor abdicated and the German kings abandoned the thrones, Germany, I would say the German Empire lost the First World War. It was humiliating defeat with the Treaty of Versailles. Was the Treaty of Versailles? Yes, the Treaty of Versailles. So during that time, he was nothing relevant. He was a failed art, at least in the eyes of the public, was a failed artist, a nobody, was upset that his dream for the German Empire failed. And by the way, his nationality was that of Austria. He was not even allowed to join the Bavarian military, but he did anyway. So he also broke the law. And when he and his group attempted to take over the German government and it failed, he also became a convict. This failed artist who became a veteran and ex-convict, he knew he needed legitimacy. And he and his group used trickery to obtain the legitimacy. And once they got the leverage, they acted suddenly, here and there. They began to make sudden moves. And people got used to the sudden moves. People couldn't keep up with them. And before you know it, they invaded Poland. Start of Second World War. He came as a thief in the night. People did not see it coming. Now, this is a coming as thief in the night in a negative way. It's obvious to you. So I'm not praising the Nazis. I'm not praising the Second World War. I'm not praising the crimes they commit. Absolutely not. I'm saying he came as a thief in the night. And it worked, unfortunately. Now, this is not the only example of people coming as a thief in the night. It's not the only example. There are more examples of this in history. Think about the Japanese annexation of Korea. Um, the Japanese annexation of Korea also happened as a thief in the night. Because before that, hey, I'm showing history right now. Korea under Japanese rule. By the way, I lived in Korea, and I can tell you this topic is still sensitive for the population over there. So let me see. Something I want to point out to you over here. Okay, here it is. Because the takeover of Korea by Japan came as thief in the night too. Let me explain why. Because Korea used to be a tributary state of the Chinese Empire, which means Korea was a separate country, but it paid tribute to the Chinese emperor in exchange to have access to the Chinese economy. But as a result of that, Korea often just followed the foreign policy of the Chinese Empire, which was quite effective at the time. And at the time, Japan opened up their borders and began to modernize under the Meiji Restoration. This Emperor Mitsuhito, I spoke about him before. And the thing is, Japan was modernizing. Japan went from a feudal ghetto, because that's what Japan was a feudal ghetto before 1865. Very swiftly, within a decade, 1875, Japan was already a modern country. The Japanese modernization went swiftly. Now, while Japan was still in its modernization process, Japan, it wasn't just out of the kindness of the heart, I'm not saying that, but they intervened in Korea with the Japan-Korea Treaty of 1876. It's this treaty that Japan forced on Korea that also forced Korea to start acting more as an independent nation on the world stage instead of being under the shadows of the Chinese of the Qing dynasty. Well, this treaty wasn't really a fair one because it gave many advantages to Japan, not that many advantages to Korea directly. But this was what triggered Korea to establish their own foreign relations. And when you look at it, hold on. Empire of Korea. It led to a Korean king, Gochong, reforming Korea into an empire in 1897. And Korea had foreign relations like this. These foreign relations don't exist before. So Japan at the time was kind of perceived as, well, they are the big brother here in Asia, who kind of helped Korea out. Japan did not have a better reputation in Korea back then. And at some point, it wasn't the Soviet Union yet, at some point, the Russian Empire wanted to grow its influence in Korea. And then Japan came with a protectorate. So Japan turned Korea into a protectorate. So now all the foreign relations were managed by Japan, but Korea still was an independent country. So when Japan suddenly arrived with its military overtaking it, it was kind of like, what goes on? I thought you guys were looking after us. I thought you guys were helping us modernize. What the heck? So there was resistance in Korea against Japanese occupation, but because it was a sudden occupation, you can't say, well, Rashid, they turned Korea into a protectorate, so there should have been a warning signal also. But you need to understand, a protectorate is when a country's foreign relations are managed by another country, but the country still can do its own thing internally. And yet, a lot of Japanese people, Japanese companies, also invest in Korea. And at that time, also a lot of Koreans moved to Japan to get education and to go back and invest in Korea. So the sudden takeover was like, huh? Now, there are more examples like this in history. But I'm just using these two relatively modern examples to you: the Japanese annexation of Korea, also Hitler rise to power. You also had the independence of Indonesia under the guy's name again. I believe his name was Sukarno. So you also had this happening, which people did not expect, because the leader of Indonesian independence actually wasn't really that against the Netherlands. He even wanted Indonesia to have autonomy within the Dutch Empire, but this was declined. So he becoming this leader of independent Indonesia was also suddenly. What I'm saying is that coming as a thief in the night has its advantages. Now, of course, coming as a thief in the night also means that you have to act suddenly. You have to act when nobody expects it, and it also means that you have to be ready to put up with a fight. And coming as a thief in the night can only be done once you build momentum. You can't come as a thief in the night if there's no momentum. Okay? So let's go back to ancient times, for example. Okay? In ancient times, you had those bandits that went around looting and robbing people. And as you know, during the Roman Empire, you had no instant communication, no Wi-Fi, no internet, no trains, no airplanes, no buses, no vehicles, none of that. There was horses and carriages and chariots, and or you also use donkeys on land, and by sea you had ships. That's it. So even though the Roman Empire eventually became massive, it was still slow travel, slow communication. During that time, you had various bandits all over the place who did the following. Let's take a city, for example, Mediolanum. Today it's called Milan, okay, or Milano. Let's say you had a lot of silver stored here in Mediolanum, and yet criminals all the way in the south of Italy hearing about it. Would they just travel all the way to Mediolanum and just, break into the storage where all the gold is? No. Likely, you would have Roman guards over there, even Roman soldiers, and they would be arrested and likely executed. No. What they did was, now it may not happen to Mediolanum directly because it was a big city, but let's say you had a small town outside of Mediolanum, so over here. Let's say you had a small town, and in a small town, you had a lot of gold and silver. You had some wealthy people, you had some wealthy people over there. The thieves would go all the way over there. The travel would take a few days, and once they're there, one of them would pretend to be a sojourner, because there are a lot of sojourners throughout the Roman Empire. Okay, because you could travel freely all over the place. Someone would say that he's a sojourner, from maybe Assyria or Judea or from Egypt, whatever, or from Dalmatia, and they would say, "Hey, I need a place to stay." And in the Roman Empire, you had many guest houses where you could stay. You had a lot of guest houses where travelers could stay overnight. So you have someone pretending to be a sojourner, and they lodge at the small town. While they're in a small town, they walk around, looking at the bakeries, the butchers, checking for the temples, the bathhouses. So they just walk around in the area. What they're doing is spying on the area. While they're there, one of their fellow criminals come and ask them, "Hey, what have you found out?" They exchange information. Then the sojourner leaves. He moves on, so called. Then a few days later, during the night, when everyone's asleep, roughly around midnight or sometimes after midnight, sudden, sudden noise of trumpets. They would blow the trumpet very loud, scaring everyone. Everyone's awake. Because everyone suddenly awakes because of noise, they're disoriented. And when everyone is disoriented, that same moment, the other criminals who are not blowing the trumpets in, break down the place and loot the houses. At the same time, they also cause arson. Okay, not only they blow the trumpet very loud, scaring everyone there. While everyone is scared and can't think clearly, they break in, and it also cause fire. They light place on fire. So now people have to deal with the sudden noise of all the trumpets. They know what goes on, and they also have to deal with this. There's smoke everywhere because it's fire. So people are distracted both the sounds of the trumpets and by the fire. I mean, the smoke that could be caused by all the fires, because they would put fires in multiple places at the same time. And that's how they end up looting everything and they get away. By doing it like that, it's very hard for the people to stop them. Oh, and again, at the time, you had no telephones, you had no internet, you had no 911 calls. So by the time Roman guards or the Roman authorities in a closest city find out about it, it's likely a few hours later, and by the time the burglars are gone already with the loot. So they come on horses or on camels. Camels is when they were in the east. With the come with trumpets, they come with material to light fire. They come in a group, blow the trumpet during around midnight or a little afterwards, stalking the people, commit arson at the same time, loot the place, and leave. That's that's something burglars did throughout the empire. Now they were an annoyance to to the public of the empire, and the Roman authorities spent a lot of time to shut it down, but it's very hard to shut down. Now that's where the phrase "coming as thief in the night" comes from. I mean, if they loot a town near Mediolanum, it takes maybe 3 to 4 hours before the Roman guards in Mediolanum knows about it and they travel to the place to deal with it. By that time, they're already in Gaul over heading towards Aquitania. And because they likely wear masks, how are you going to identify them? How can you know who they are? So it was quite easy to loot and rob places back then if you did it in a smart way, coming as thief in the night. And Christ used that same example when it comes to his second coming. But guess what? Christ, during his lifetime on earth, also acted as a thief in the night in his lifestyle. He would act suddenly to get things done. Now, I'm not saying that coming as a thief in the night is always the best thing to do, but it can be the best thing in some circumstances. Coming as a thief in the night is the best thing to do if what you attempt to do or what you want to do is something people are not really willing to comply with or something people are opposing. Let's say you want to open a Buddhist temple, but the people that live in the area are atheists. They don't like to see expression of religion. In that case, if you announce Buddhist temple is coming, guess what? It will never come. People are going to resist and oppose it. And let's say the government does grant a permit to build the Buddhist temple, people will even risk going to prison, disrupting the construction. But if people are distracted by all types of other crap that goes on in society, and meanwhile this something being built, some will notice, oh, the construction workers building that there, but people not really pay attention to what's being built. Only when it's finished, realize, hold on a minute, why do you see this giant Buddha statue over there? Oh my God, it's a Buddhist temple. And now the people who are there We don't even like expression of relation. Pop think, how the heck did this Buddhist temple come here? And none of us even like relation. But it's right here. That's what I mean. And as believers, there are going to be times you need to act as a thief in the night. But acting as a thief in the night you often need other people to collaborate with you, because doing it all by yourself can be quite risky. It is possible, but it's quite risky. All right. Now, for those that are here, I see Gloss Canon Gaming is here. I see Joshua James is here. For those that are here, how many of you ever experienced the following? A change happened in your neighborhood, and you thought, when the heck did this happen? How many of you experienced this? Let me know. How many of you ever experienced the following? Something changed in your neighborhood. It can be a building has been demolished. Or it can be some extra migrants moved in, or it can be a school has closed, or new business open. I mean, something happened in your neighborhood, and you think, when the heck does this happen? You try to look back, think, oh, what? Let me tell you, that thing that happened, whether it's a school closing, or new migrants moving in, or a placement demolished, ever, it was in process all along. You just did not notice it because you were distracted by other things. And because you were distracted by other things, you did not notice what was unfolding right in front of you. So by the time it was completed, now those behind it came into open. And now you think, hold on a minute, what is this? But it has been in process all along. We as believers need to learn to have things in process all along, only give crumbs of information to the public just so they don't get anxious. And then, as a thief in the night, at the right moment, we go full force. That's how Jesus did it. That's how the apostles did it. That's how we need to do it. And guess what? There are evil people doing this too. Well, Hitler and the Nazis did it. Hitler even came faking like he's a believer too. Yes, Hitler claimed to be a believer too. He used Christianity just to calm people down while he was doing his political thing. So, if people at the dark side can learn from what Jesus said and use it for the negative, that's what the Nazis did, what Hitler did. If they can read what Jesus said, what Jesus taught, and misuse Jesus' teachings, why aren't believers using Jesus' teachings as it's meant to be for the good? So, I want you to understand the following. Anytime evil people, I'm not talking about evil people who are out of their mind, because you have a lot of evil people out of their mind. As a matter of fact, most evil people are out of their mind. But you have some evil people who have some brains to think, who have some intelligence. Intelligent evil people, not all evil people, intelligent evil people will always occupy you with less important things, because they cannot occupy you with nonsense. Because if they come with nonsense, you would say, hey, I don't want to deal with this. They will occupy you with less important things. And once you're occupied with the less important things, those things are still important, but of less importance. They now can hijack the main thing you should be focused on. Let's say you're a farmer and it's harvest time. The main thing on your mind during a harvest time should be to get your crops off the fields. But let's say now during that time you have all these debt collectors harassing you, saying, "Oh, you still need to obey this debt, or else we can put a siege on your farm, or whatever." Or you have supermarkets that you have a contract with suddenly acting weird. What you're not aware of is that the debt collector suddenly coming after you and the supermarket you have to deal with suddenly acting weird are all part of a plot. While you're so focused on settling with the debt collectors and dealing with the supermarket contracts, you have people stealing your crops. So by the time you go out there to do your harvest, half of your harvest is gone. And you think, how did this happen? Well, you didn't pay attention to your field. When your field was ripe for the harvest, you should have focused only on harvesting it. Other things like the debt collectors and the agreements with supermarkets are also important, but they were of less importance. The main important thing in that season was to get the crops in. So what I'm saying is a distraction isn't when people uh, trigger your focus on something unimportant. For example, if it's harvest time and you're a farmer and someone gets to talk about some theater play, you could think, man, why are you talking to me about the theater play? Theater play. Okay, I like going to the theater, but hold on a minute, I have a harvest to bring in. So if you come with something that's totally not important, people are going to put the price aside. You have to come with something that's important to people, but it's of less importance. For example, let's say um, your man. Let's talk about marriage, for example. Main thing in your marriage is a healthy, transparent communication, so that there's good intimacy. It can be that as a couple, you haven't gone on holidays that often. It can be that as a couple, you better go on vacation because both of you are working a lot. So now there are people suggesting you maybe you guys should go out on dates more often as a couple. You know what I mean? Spend some time together. That's important as a couple to spend time together on, going out, doing things together. But what's more important is to have healthy, transparent communication so you can process things. Because during this lifetime, it will not only be peach and cream. As a couple, there will be times you will go through hard times together. As a couple, both of you come from a background with dysfunction, so both of you have dysfunction to process as adults. So you need healthy, transparent communication to keep the intimacy in the marriage. And once you've healthy, transparent communication and it's full intimacy, you trust one another, now you can spend time together, going out on dates, going to the cinema, going out dinner, all of that. Because now the dates you go out on and the fun things you do together, it happens in a safe context. But what if in your marriage there's no healthy, transparent communication? You guys, because you need that to process difficulties in life. So you guys are emotionally competent. And now, because of emotional competence, there is unrest in the marriage. But people tell you, you know what, you guys are working a lot. You guys should spend more time together, which is true. It is important to spend time together as a couple, but you should spend time together as a couple with the foundation of healthy, intimate communication. If there's no healthy, intimate communication, then spending time together is only lead to more conflict. So in this case, let's say you and your spouse are now going to the cinema more often. You guys go on weekend trips, spending time together. Good. You think you're working on your marriage, but actually your marriage is getting worse because the most important thing that should be there is not there. Healthy and transparent communication. In this case, you and your spouse are distracting each other by spending time together instead of actually working things out. So in this case, that is you guys spending time together is an important thing. But because it's not the most important thing that should have been dealt with, it's a distraction. All right? Let me give another example. Let's say now that let's say now you have parents that want their children to have good grades in school. Now, having good grades in school is relevant, it's important. But it's more important that your child learns to be sensitive to intuition. Because good grades in school will not keep you safe on the streets. Good grades in school will help you financially later in life, or at least will be an advantage for you financially later in life. But good grades in school do not keep you safe from bad situations. You need to be sensitive to your intuitions. You need to pick up warning symptoms. So let's say you have parents now putting a big emphasis on the children having better grades in school. Now, having good grades in school is important. But listen, what's more important is your children should have should be sensitive to their own intuition. Once they have once they're sensitive to their own intuition, the good grades will follow automatically because you also can pick up with intuition what's important to learn or not. So if your children get good grades in school and eventually grow up and they go to, let's say, access universities, they get well-paying jobs as adults, you think, oh, I did a good job. What if your children now are part of a political agenda that's causing harm? What if your grown children now cannot discern when people take advantage of them? Guess what? It's still a failure. And you think, well, hold on a minute, my child ended up well. They went to school, got good grades, they went to college, they got a good paying job, they never got in trouble with the police, they don't have a criminal record. So you think your children ended up well? No, they didn't. Because they don't know how to recognize bad situations. They're being taken advantage of. It would have been better for you to put an emphasis on spiritually training your children to have a strong intuition, because then they would at least be safer in life. And once they're safer in life, now they can afford to spend more time on education, all of that. But if your children aren't even safe because you can't even discern situations properly, I'm sorry, but that's a failure. So do you understand now that a distraction isn't only come with something unimportant? By the way, if you try to distract someone with something that's not important at all, it's not going to work. You need to distract them with something that's important to them, but it's not the most important thing at the moment. Is this all clear to you? Let me know in the live chat. So, the Roman Empire itself, the world power back then, eventually became divided into, because the Roman Empire had one error. They were so focused on material prosperity that they forgot to develop the urban, and that they forgot to develop the Western provinces, because the Western provinces in the Roman Empire, meaning the west of Europe, was underdeveloped compared to the east. All right. Of course, financial profit was important to keep the Roman Empire functioning. But what also should be done is the west of the empire would have prospered even more if it were better integrated in the east. Because in the Roman Empire, the financial strength was in the east, always was. The financial strength was not in Rome. Financial strength was in Alexandria, Egypt. It was in Jerusalem, Judea. It was in Thessalonica. It was in Byzantium. The financial strength of the Roman Empire was in the east. So the Roman Empire was always depending on the east more than it was on the west. So much of the focus went to the east. And that's why eventually, after some, I believe, two and a half centuries, something like that, they had to divide the Roman Empire in two. So that Rome could focus on the underdeveloped west, and Byzantium or Constantinople could focus on the more wealthy east. So even the Romans, during their administration for generations, were distracted by the financial profit. Now, financial profit was important for the tax revenue and the functioning of the economy, but it was not the most important thing they should have done. Okay? So a distraction is when something of less importance is pushed as the more important thing. Something of less importance is pushed as the main important thing. So look at your own life. Is there anything of less importance? I'm not saying it's not important, not relevant. Something can be important, but not relevant for you. Let's look at the Roman Empire. Financial profit was important to the Roman Empire, but it was not relevant for the western part of the empire. Okay? So something can be important and still not relevant to you. Let's say aviation is important for trade. Okay, that's true. But if you're a fisherman fishing, then aviation is not relevant to you. Aviation is important for the country to function. That's true. But for you, a fisherman, is not relevant because the situation doesn't apply to you directly. So something can be important objectively, but still not relevant to you directly. So learn the difference between importance and relevance. Something can be relevant at the same time not that important to other people. For example, let's say one of your relatives passed away. It's relevant for you to get therapy if necessary to process the fact that loved one passed away. But therapy may not be important to all the other people because they're not the ones who lost a loved one, you did. So for you now, it's relevant to get therapy. But your you getting therapy is not directly important to other people. So understand, importance is when something carries weight. You need to consider it. Relevance is it needs your focus now. Okay, let me say it one more time. Importance is when something carries weight, you have to consider it. Relevance is it matters now. You need to pay attention to it right now. That's the difference between relevance and importance. Okay? So, in your life, every season in your life, check what's relevant right now for you and focus on what's relevant. Other things may be important, but is that thing important also relevant? Do you follow me now? And a lot of believers are lacking in that. A lot of believers are lacking in this. They're so focused on important things, I don't check what is relevant. The most important thing right now is things that's relevant to you. Look, if you are, if you just fell off the stairs and you're in the hospital recovering, and you remember, oh crap, I need to finish my master thesis. Listen, university will tell you, listen, you're in the hospital right now. Your master thesis is important, but you know what? We can arrange you can finish your thesis later on. What's most important to you now is recovering. So your recovering is relevant. And when you're in the hospital recovering, your recovery is the most important, it's relevant. Your thesis is important, but not relevant. That's what you need to understand. If you have trouble applying this knowledge, pray about it, fast about it, and let the Holy Spirit guide you in it. He is the guide. If you are injured in a hospital, the most important thing for you is recover. Your thesis, your job, paying rent, all of that are important, but not the relevant. And us believers, we have to learn to be relevant in the here and now. Every political group on the earth seeks to be relevant, that they matter right now. That you can't. All political groups on the earth seek to have a financial leverage so they become relevant. Not only political groups, religious groups will do the same thing. Cults do the same thing. They seek financial leverage to be relevant. And then you have believers saying, well, the word belongs to Satan anyway, so we're going to heaven when we die, or the rapture is coming. Rapture is not even biblical. So we have a lot of believers being neglectful of the earth now, and they do not become economically relevant. As believers, we have to be economically relevant. We have to be culturally relevant. We have to be economically relevant and culturally dominant. So financial independence is part of being is the recipe to become economically relevant. And with economic relevance, you have cultural dominance. This is how believers ought to be. Right now, you have all types of groups, religious, political, um, who are becoming economically relevant and politically dominant, and not politically, I mean culturally dominant. But where are the believers? We need to work on that for real. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know now in the live chat. Please let me know now. Are there any questions about this topic? Just let me know. And the title of the live stream was Why Violent People Are Often Ruined by the Most Unlikely Suspects Across the Common Thief in the Night. Violent people are close-minded, always want to be left alone and escape. That's why they use violence to be left alone. Everyone invests in violence is in escapism. People in escapism have a tunnel vision. Because that they're not aware of what's around them. So it's very easy for people to just come around and take advantage of them and overtake them. So never trust, never rely on violence. Never. As a matter of fact, as believers, we use power, not violence. And all power comes from God anyway. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know now, please. No questions? Okay. I'm going out now. Enjoy the Shabbat. Keep agreeing with Christ. Again, hit the like button, share this live stream, become a member of the channel, subscribe to the channel, donate in links below. If you wish to contribute to the fund of my PhD, write PhD with your donation. And feel free to check my novels on Amazon. They're over here. Okay, there are more coming up very soon. And for now, I'm going out, doing buying some groceries. I'll see you next time. Shalom. God is good all the time. Amen.